Hi, I'm Clive from UnsungHeroGuitars. I'm delighted and excited to be able to welcome to the workshop today a super guest star, a customer, and quite possibly a friend by now, Dr. none less, Dr. Chris Elphick. So Chris, we've known each other a few months now. How do we meet?
So I found out about your work through Facebook. So there's a Paury Smith Facebook group, and this chap got a brand new guitar and he put a scratch in it, right?
Oh, not good news.
And he sent it to you, and I was looking through the pictures of the before and after work, and I was amazed that you could get it looking like it did, right? I had several guitars that I needed some work doing on, and I was thinking, I hope this guy's in Devon because I don't want to ship my guitars to him. And I looked on your website and it said you were in North Devon. And then I phoned you, and that's how I found out about what it is you do.
So you obviously came over to me one Saturday morning.
Yep.
Maybe try to explain to people what that was like for you, coming to a completely random, unknown. So a bit of trepidation, no doubt.
Well, I don't know about trepidation. I mean, like, I guess if well, first of all, it was made easier because I'd seen some of your work online. Okay, that made things a lot easier. It wasn't like I was trusting a complete stranger. We'd spoken on the phone for like half an hour.
Probably.
Previous to that,
Probably,
okay.
Once we start.
So you know, I knew you in that respect. So the first thing coming in here was how amazing the setup is of the whole space.
Yeah.
How awesome it looks. And you know, there was not these guitars, but the first thing I saw when I came in, there was like a Paury Smith, you know, other cool guitars on the wall.
Yeah.
And you know,
that's as much for me as anybody else.
Well, yeah, of course.
I'm a geek too. You know, we love all this stuff.
And it was just sitting down. You know, once I had arrived and you know we saw each other for the first time, and I just wanted to explain to you what was wrong with the guitars. And you afforded me that opportunity. Really, you spent a lot of time talking to me about what it is I wanted. You let me demonstrate what was wrong.
Sure. And
you had all the time in the world. So
yeah, well, that's an important thing. You know, it's essential. It's all right for me to say, well, I think this, I think that, but it's your guitar.
Yeah.
You know, so it's got to work. It's got to work for you.
Never once did you ever say, I think you need this or that. You were completely happy to go with. I mean, hopefully my requests weren't that outlandish. Like I wanted them to stay in tune properly and a few
simple
things
requirement.
Well, yeah, and you know stuff that should be achievable on an expensive or any kind of guitar.
Sure.
But you actually had the time. I think we were talking for about an hour.
Yeah.
Before I said, listen, I've got to go because I've got a gig or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And so that was what it was like.
Yeah, I think I'm pleased that you sort of picked up on that because that's an important thing for me. You know, that whole customer relationship bit. It's so important. You actually relayed a couple of stories at the time. Obviously, we're not going to name names and throw any mud around, but
sure.
You relayed a couple of stories where you know paid for service previously that was less than.
Yeah, well, I think you may have even seen it on the Paury Smith.
Yeah.
So can I talk about what the problem was?
You can, yeah.
So
I'll show some pictures.
What had happened was the Paury Smith that I've got wasn't staying in tune very well. It was kind of almost there, but it's almost when it's a little bit out, it's more annoying than when it's a lot. It was noticeable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, I told you that I had the nut replaced maybe 6 months ago, and you know, certainly when I compare it to what is on there now, it was done very badly. I think is the case. So yeah, I have paid a lot of money before for guitars to be set up by other people, other companies, and stuff like that. But never ever had chance to speak to someone for an hour about what it is I wanted.
Yeah.
Right, and to be sent like pictures as the work progresses,
sure, yeah,
is completely unheard of for me.
Yeah,
and a treat, right? So like when I saw the pictures, I got excited. I was showing them with my friends, like my friend Yarka, a guitar nut. I showed him, this is what's happening, and to have that, I've never had that before.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
That's a great thing. I mean, you relate to me that you've even fallen out with people that are doing work on your guitar.
Yes.
On your money.
So I think if you're paying for something it should be done to how you want it.
Yeah.
Right? And again, nothing I'm asking for is completely crazy. I mean, I like a low action, and I like the guitar to stay in tune. You know, to make it playable, you know, that's all I really need, right?
Yeah.
So
what else do you need to know?
So I was in a guitar emporium and got into a big argument about the action on the guitar. They said it couldn't be lowered anymore, and we got into an argument about it. And I actually finished by saying, listen, if I'm paying for something, with the greatest respect, you should do it how I want.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's how it should be, because I couldn't play the guitar when I got out of the workshop from them.
I think, to be honest, there is obviously a bit of give and take in a conversation like that, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes some helpful advice can be very useful, particularly obviously someone who's new to guitar, but it only took me 2 minutes speaking to you to know that you weren't new.
I know what I like.
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
And I know what I like in a guitar that I'm like either looking to purchase or when I've been repaired or whatever.
Yeah, and you back that up with your playing, obviously.
Well, we'll find out later, but that's very nice.
I'd like to say that it was as much a pleasure for me to have you at the workshop to begin with, because I'd seen one of your videos on Facebook.
Yep.
Just a short clip, and from that it was, the guy can play, but to actually have you here, I can distinctly remember for that first 5 minutes you sort of got your guitar out and you just said, well, I've just got some problems, and I was just sat there grinning the whole time, 'cause it was just such an absolute treat. And I said to you at the time, and I still maintain it now, that you're in the top 10% of guitar players I've ever met and worked with. I know I've obviously seen a few, but I was thinking last night about the numbers there, because if I've seen 200 guitar players, are you in the top 20? Yeah, definitely.
That's I just like the guitar a lot, and if I'm good, that's cool, and it really means the world to me that you would say that. But I also want to feel kind of inspired to play as well. So can I talk real briefly about when I retired the Parker?
Yeah,
for example.
Please do.
So
conversation.
My that Parker Nightfly is my favourite guitar ever.
Yeah.
Right. I've had an obscene amount of guitars, right, and I've played loads, and I always come back to that Parker. I got it for my 21st birthday. A gift I bought myself, but it wasn't like, I'm not from that kind of cloth. But and my only criticism with that guitar is it's kind of unreliable. So there were a few things wrong with it when I gave it to Clive, and that was the reason why I retired it. So the pickups didn't work anymore for whatever reason. I couldn't diagnose it.
Sure.
Right? The vibrato unit wasn't really holding tune to me much anymore, and it was also breaking an awful lot of strings. It's also got a piezo acoustic simulator preamp on it.
Super cool.
Which it also didn't work. And I don't know if that was linked to the electronics going wrong or whatever. But anyway, I just gave it to Clive and said, listen, please get it working again. And I can't remember, did we even talk about what I wanted in terms of like the action?
It was pretty low and slick anyway.
I think I just wanted it where it was.
Yeah, that's right. You did mention that. You said, I love the way it plays.
Yeah.
I just need it to work.
That was it. And I brought it at the same time as my Paul Reed Smith. And as we said, all I wanted to do was to have it played again, because I'd retired it for maybe 3 years. You know, my favourite guitar, I've played more gigs with that guitar than I think I probably ever will in my life. And I remember, whenever you phoned me up and said it was repaired, how happy I was. That's the thing that I remember about this place.
Yeah.
How happy I was when I got it out of the case. You looked all fresh, and the strings had been changed and the neck had been cleaned and all those kind of other things. When I picked up and played it for the first time, that was worth the money for me. To have it back, something I love working again. I don't care that it's been scratched. I just love that it's here.
Yeah. I didn't do the scratch.
No, that was all done before. Like that was my carelessness, but that's what happens.
and guitars are very personal things.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. You know, one thing that resonates with me may not necessarily resonate with you. And it's, everybody's different. And it's one of those things which I always find fascinating when you talk about guitars, and probably more online when you read about guitars, how entrenched people can get in their views.
Yeah.
That a certain brand is great and another brand is
Not
poor.
so great.
Yeah, and okay, there's some truth in that, but for me, I try not to get into this is better, it's worse. I just say it's different. You know, different things will mean different things to different people, and there's never any right or wrong in that. You know, if it works for you, if it's special for you,
Mm-hmm.
happy days. You know,
Yeah.
so to have been able to work on your Parker and to bring it back to life, and now hear that you just don't put it down after it was not lifted for
it hasn't
for many
been
years.
off the stand, so it's in my room next to a Fender Strat, and I'm playing it all the time. Yeah, you know, so I think these were the two first guitars I got done with you in February.
They were.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I got them both done at the same time, I think.
You did. Yeah.
And the same thing with the Paul Reed Smith. I just wanted it to be cleaned up a bit because although I've looked after it,
It's in super condition. It just you just got some corrosion on the tram and that sort of things. I remember. Yeah.
and that was the big thing, right? So when you sent me pictures of the metalwork of the guitar, like how dirty it was, and when I say dirty, just like my sweat had corroded away,
Which happens.
Yeah, but that was the big thing. And I remember when I would look at it in the case, I would look at the kind of like vibrato unit, and I would think, oh my goodness me, it doesn't look mint anymore. Off on a side, I try and like to keep some of my guitars mint, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Right? But anyway, I've gigged with it once or twice, and I play it a lot, and it just wasn't staying in tune or really playing how I liked it, because I think another thing that I had done, did you change it from 10s to 9s? I think because you changed the nuts at the same time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I don't remember that detail. Actually,
well, it's got 9s on it now.
Yeah.
I think you might have done, but it plays superbly. It stays in tune how I want to do, how I want it to.
Yeah.
The neck feels great. I love the action on it, and but I will be honest with you. Of all the 4 guitars you've done for me now, the Parker's my favourite.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a quirky guitar. Suits you, sir.
Well, I think one of the reasons why I like it is I think it's quite weird. Like people don't know about Parkers particularly, and when I've ever let people play it before, either they hate it, right? Absolutely hate it, which is I always find hilarious, or they really like it.
Yeah.
So and it's got some cool things. I really like the fact it's got stainless steel frets on, and it's really versatile. I like the coil split.
Yeah.
So it works for me.
A lot of features. I can remember when it was done, when it was finished, picked up and played it, and it's not a guitar I would gravitate to naturally, personally, but just great fun to play. Such fun to play. The tones that it produces sort of don't fit with how flimsy and light a Parker is. We could talk about Parkers all day long, really, though I'm not an expert, clearly. But it's just a great fun guitar, so I can see why it means so much to you. Obviously, with your 21st birthday, there's an attachment as well. It's a sentimental guitar, but it's just a great instrument.
And they don't make them anymore, so that was another thing. You can still get retrofit parts for them, but I was just thinking, it doesn't make sense to have this not being used. Because a guitar should last forever, really, shouldn't it?
It should, yeah.
Any of these guitars here should last a lifetime.
Yeah, bits wear out, bits break, and all that sort of stuff, but it can all be rescued.
Once it's there, it should be around forever. And that was one of the things I thought. So it was completely luck. And the fact that you were, 40 minutes from my house means that I could come over I remember there was a period of time when I was coming like every other week or something like that. I wasn't allowed to drop off a guitar or pick one up or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just sheer luck that you were so close. And so you're the guy that does my guitars now.
Right, so we'll move on to your PRS. Chris, which model is this?
This is a Custom 24.
Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah, the only added thing about it is, it has a rosewood neck, which I like the sound of, because I don't have another Custom 24, I can't compare it to anything.
Sure.
But a stock Custom 24.
Okay, so now we got a Les Paul Custom by Epiphone, not Gibson. It's 2007 in natural finish. It's been worked through by myself, finished it just yesterday. Top to tail, it's had what I call a Voss type finish, which takes the gloss off of it. Makes it look a little bit old, but not full relic. It just adds a little bit of age and character. While still looking in great condition. It's had a full fretboard work through. There were some high rogue frets there, causing some dead spots and some choking out and what have you. And electronics wise, it's had Gibson pickups. It's also got Gibson pots in there, volume and tone pots. It's got big, huge orange drop tone capacitors. It's got a Switchcraft toggle switch. So it's not stock, shall we say. Chris, I don't know how that how does that feel to you?
I mean, yeah, it feels great. I don't know a lot about Epiphones, to be honest with you. So I guess what do you think are the biggest changes that you make on something that would be stock?
It's definitely the first thing I always do on every Epiphone, and I recommend it to anyone who ever contacts me and asks about theirs, is to change out the stock circuitry. Because it's it's one of the key areas where Epiphone do take shortcuts. They're at the inexpensive end of the market.
Affordable.
Yeah. Not we haven't used the other word.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So
affordable.
Yeah. Not we haven't used the other word.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So they do need to keep costs down, and they do cut corners on the electrics. Now, a stock one off the shelf works. It's okay, but the amount of times that I've picked a new one up and the toggle switch is a bit flaky.
Yeah,
It just feels a bit coarse and a bit ropey in the hand. The tapers on the volume and tone pots, it's not that friendly. You tend to find on stock, you get not a lot all the way up to 8, and then you get everything.
Sure.
So whilst I wouldn't dare claim that it radically changes the tone or the character, some people do make that claim, but I don't go there. What it does, it definitely makes the guitar far more usable.
Yep.
You can roll back on the volume and get some nice subtle changes rather than a drastic effect.
And the tone, presumably?
Similar story with the tone as well. You just get a usable taper. And like I say, with the toggle switch, when you flick, between pickups, it just feels solid. It raises the overall standard of the guitar. So that's the thing I do as an absolute minimum, is to change out the internal electrics. Also, the fretboard is a key area. Sometimes on stock they're okay. I've had new ones out of the box which are a joke.
So what in terms of the
of
frets or the
crazy high action,
right,
and frets that actually feel coarse.
Right.
You do a bend and it's just
you can feel something pressing back.
It's not a nice experience. And the fretboard that has stock, they come covered in some kind of product that Epiphone put on there, possibly to make it look like an ebony board. I don't know, to darken the fretboard down or whatever. But that all comes off.
Yep.
And the fret ends get nicely rounded, and invariably, because they, again, we're back to the point that it's an inexpensive guitar, so they've got to build them to a competitive price point at a very competitive end of the market. So as long as these guitars come off the production line within a certain tolerance, they're happy.
Yeah.
And someone could pay a few £100 and probably do okay. But for me, there's so much more that you can get out of these guitars with some attention to detail, right from, we're talking about the nut height, so that you're not, you don't need a road map just to find your way to the first fret.
Is that a stock nut?
That's a stock nut, yeah, but the height's been changed so that it's just sat above, it's perfect height. You haven't, because sometimes if the nut height is too high, you're fretting here and you're effectively putting a bend in it straight away.
Yeah. It's like it's scalloped.
Yeah. Or into some degree, yeah, because you've moved the string so far. And very often the neck relief, which is the amount of bend in the neck, is off. And if you've got one or two high frets, you're going to get dead notes, choking out, all sorts of stuff. So, I've yet to find one new off the shelf where I've gone, that's perfect.
Right.
It just doesn't happen, again, because it's not the market that they're aiming at. But the thing that really struck me is just how good these things can be, with attention to detail in the right places. So, like you say, you're not necessarily an Epiphone user.
No, or this, like this shape of guitar, I'm not too familiar with any brand, but it feels solid.
Yeah.
Really. So what about like the tailpiece?
Yeah, that's completely stock.
Right, okay.
Completely stock. Some people do say that, upgrades to different materials and stuff does pay dividends. I'm happy to do that for anybody who wants that done.
But it's just
but
not
I don't sort of add that extra expense as a stock. To me, circuitry is a big improvement, and obviously the fretboard and playability is where it's at. vai on a Les Paul?
Well,
Interesting choice.
yeah. Well, that was more, I guess, rocky than anything.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly. As I said, this is the longest I've ever played like a Les Paul style guitar for him, probably
Okay.
my whole life. So it wouldn't be my first choice,
No.
just because I've got other tastes, you know.
Sure.
But I love a Les Paul. Two things. First of all, I was trying to play pretty hard. I mean, there might have been, I can't remember, adjustments for tuning in between takes, but to me, that's still in tune.
And it's loud.
And it's loud. But I was trying to play hard on purpose, and I think that's a real good test of a guitar.
Sure, yeah.
Whether like after you've been playing with it, it's still in tune when you finished.
Yeah.
And the other thing was how comfortable the action is. I mean, for me personally, it might be a hair too low,
Right.
which is cool. I mean, like that's very easy to adjust.
Yeah.
But I don't normally associate these kind of guitars with low actions.
No, sure.
But this is, like Ibanez shred kind of territory now. Again, because I'm not really used to the setup very well, I'm a little bit confused about like which one of these corresponds with which. Because again, I'm not really used to it.
Yeah.
But it sounds and plays fantastic. It's very comfortable. I didn't venture up high. I didn't really think to.
It's a little tricky. A little trickier to get up there.
Maybe on a one of these with the neck joint in where it is, but it felt extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
And it did everything I needed it to. Like I was playing hard, I could hit the harmonics again. I played it previously, but like with guitars, I like to play them for a while, so I know where the harmonics kind of are.
Yeah.
And it's always a bit of a pot luck, so to speak, getting it sometimes. But I got them all, and it feels really solid. But
yeah. Well, interestingly, obviously, from my point of view, I love the things. I just think Epiphone. I don't get into the whole Epiphone versus Gibson debate because it's utterly
whole
futile.
can of worms.
Yeah, it's a completely futile discussion because they're both Les Pauls. They're the only companies, Gibson and Epiphone. Epiphone is owned by Gibson anyway, but they're the only company that make an official Les Paul. Used to be a company called Orville that did, but anybody else that makes a guitar with that shape, it's either a single cut or it's an LP style.
Yeah.
There's only two that bear the name Les Paul now.
Yeah.
And obviously Gibson is the parent company, and Gibson Les Paul, utterly iconic instrument.
Oh yeah, huge.
I love them to bits, but I always come back to these once they've been set up properly and fitted with some nice appointments. You can get 80-90% there for 10-20% of the money.
Oh yeah.
And that to me is a pretty compelling argument. I'm not saying it's going to be better than a Gibson. That's a daft thing to say. But it's going to be a long way there, and it's a Les Paul, so that's a big deal for me.
I mean, it's certainly weighty.
Yeah,
that's something I always associate with Les Pauls like that.
Absolutely.
You need a few rounds in the gym to kick with that one, probably.
It's a solid thing, and again, that's the attraction for me. It's a substantial guitar, so it's great actually to get it in your hands. Someone who's not necessarily, you don't necessarily gravitate to that thing
No, not at
by
all.
taste, but so it's good for me to get your feedback on what you actually think about it as an instrument, as a guitar. Does it feel cheap? Does it feel nasty?
No. Like, I mean, like all the things we were talking about previously, right? When we were talking about like rough frets.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some guitars where like the fret is coming away.
Yeah, sure.
From like the fingerboard.
Yeah.
Obviously, this has been through your workshop, and you've done everything.
Yeah.
If every guitar like this felt like this in the shop, that would be a tremendous thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Impossible at that price point.
Yeah, I know, because
from factory,
from
with
all
markups
those
and all that sort of stuff. But that's why I do what I do, because I get them second hand, which obviously I'm not paying expensive amounts for them. doing the right work, and the resultant guitar is probably still cheaper than someone can buy a new one and then take it to a tech to do all that sort of stuff. So, I'm not cutting out the middleman or anything like that, but to me, I do wonder why people would buy a new one when they can buy something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm very biased. I freely admit.
But no, I would happily play a gig with this.
Yeah, you would.
Right. So I mean,
So are you a brand snob?
No. Can I tell you a little bit as to why? So the guitar that I cut my teeth on as a kid was a Yamaha Eterna. How's that for a name?
Yeah,
Eterna, right? And
Lasts forever.
I used to play it and I would think, oh man, I wish it said Fender or something on the headstock. But I'm much more interested in what you can do with a piece of equipment than what it says.
Yeah.
So like you can use any analogy you want. So when I give like my squash coach my squash racket, he's still unbelievable at squash, right? And you can talk about anything. Like photography. It's not necessarily the camera, although it's part of it. It's the person that's using
the subject matter.
So I'm not going to make any comments on my playing, but like I'm way past caring about what's on the headstock of the guitar now.
Sure.
Although I
can see the attraction.
Oh yeah.
I can definitely see the attraction. Your PRS is a stunning guitar, beautiful guitar. They do their own Korean line, of course. They have to compete in that market too, and they're great guitars.
They're awesome.
There's no doubt about it. So I guess it's good times to be a guitar player.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing as well is, and I guess speaking from experience, I've had problems with my hands over the years. Right, when all I would wish for was that I could play the guitar.
Yeah.
And if I could play that guitar without any strings on, like it would have been better than nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like really what's on the headstock really doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure.
But no, this is really solid. I'd happily gig that and own it and look after it, yeah. Really good guitar.
Okay, so you have there a 2010 56 gold top. It's loaded with P90s, stock P90s on this one, and it has switchcraft toggle as usual, and better potentiometers and tone caps and braided cable, all that good stuff going on inside that no one sees, but you feel it. So it's a slightly different flavour to the custom that you had just now. Obviously we'll get into some blues playing with a backing track at some point, but we could just maybe fiddle around on that guitar and see how it feels, see how it sounds.
So play some
chordy stuff, different tones, and a bit of fun. Tasty.
It responds very well.
Yeah. Obviously, it's had the full work through as normal.
So everything else, all the frets and
all
stuff.
All the frets and everything been done. Yeah. It wasn't that great initially,
right?
But you can tell me from the player's point of view how it feels in the hands. That's important.
Yeah, I mean, as before, I'm not really used to this kind of guitar, so just how it feels in my body is a lot different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
I can't critique at all the setup. To me, I prefer playing this one than the other one.
All right.
The action is more suited to me.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really like about it is, it's partly novelty, but it's partly because they're cool. I don't have a guitar with P90s in.
Sure.
True P90s, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of whether these are stock or whatever, you can definitely tell they've got like the kind of the bite of a P90.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I think the finish is amazing on it though.
Yeah, they are good, and that's the
that's
thing.
really
Epiphone do cut corners, as we said, with the circuitry and some of the finish, but in terms of attention to detail on that. But with the paint finishes, I've yet to find a bad one. Really.
check that out. That really is.
Yeah,
that's a mahogany back, right?
Yeah, it is. There's pieces glued together to make the main whole body.
Yeah.
Sort of make let's not kid anyone. It's not a solid one piece or anything like that.
But that's one thing that I think people should probably forget about. I think that Parker's a couple of pieces.
It could be, yeah.
From reading about it, but when you're playing it, you don't think about it.
No.
I've never been playing it today and gone, you know what? This is a 3-piece body.
It's just not working.
It's never bothered me that much. That's all. I've never done that today.
Yeah.
I'm
not. I wouldn't claim that there isn't a difference. Maybe somebody with a genuine 59 Les Paul or something would point out the differences. But I think you can guarantee that 99.99% of people who watch bands and listen to bands probably
aren't going to care.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure.
And even if they did care, they still not be able to identify it just by listening.
No.
But the feel is where it's at.
Yeah, it feels.
For me, I love the feel of a Les Paul, and from a good guitar player's perspective, you don't feel there's anything particularly that's a disappointment or left wanting.
No,
should be way better.
The only things would be things that are unique to me. So again, I can't criticize this, and if every guitar like this was set like this in a music shop, I'm sure things have changed significantly.
Yeah, they may fly out the door. Yeah.
It would be things like maybe putting some lighter strings on.
Yeah.
Things that are just unique and personal.
Sure.
All my guitars have got incredibly light strings on because I think they're easier to play.
Yeah, sure.
But I wouldn't change anything. The access again, maybe not suited to playing real high up for me.
Yeah. You've got to want it on a Les Paul. You've really got to want to get up there.
You want the dusty end.
Yeah.
But when I was playing through the, just a little example a minute ago, changing around, they feel very smooth. So and they're the kind of things you're looking for. You don't want it to be grindy and crackly and nasty.
Yeah.
And is it a stock? All the hardware stock?
Yeah, hardware stock.
Because the other thing, once we broke the strings in, both of them have stayed in tune very, very well.
Yeah. It's one of the things that people do criticise an inexpensive guitar for. They say they don't stay in tune particularly well. The tuners must be a bit poor, and it's not the case.
But isn't it in the case? It's generally the nut or the bridge that's binding, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very often the nut is one of the biggest causes of tuning issues, but. Correct string windings on the posts is such an essential part because people do stack them one on top of the other, and you're getting into a whole world of trouble with that. So, set it up correctly, get everything set, and the stock tuners are good. They really are. The Grover tuners, on a standard on that.
Yes.
Side,
Grover tuners.
It's good gear. So they don't cut corners there, thankfully.
No, that's and again. It's nice to play a guitar that's completely different than my other ones.
Sure.
So hopefully in the track in a minute, we'll get to the P90s to sing a bit.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Really cool stuff.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our show. Chris, as always, been an absolute pleasure
Listen,
having you at the workshop.
it was real good fun. So thank you.
No, thank you for agreeing to come and do this in the first place. And yeah, just killer stuff, as always.
You're very welcome. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, we'll do it again.